7-day reset. And then I'll give you a little overview of the 2 meditations and how I think it'd be really powerful to use them over the 7 days. But again, you're tuning in from kind of all over the world, as far as Denmark, Ontario, the West Coast, the East Coast, the South. And so I want this to meet you in whatever your life needs. But I also want to be authentic to myself because I do love yoga, mindset, and want to make sure you have some of those yummy spots to really remember who you are. And maybe this is the first time you're trying on meditation. And so it might feel, like you're distracted or uncomfortable, but we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end too. So about me, really, really quick. What I love about having a virtual practice and really that vision for me and my family is I had a lot of travel. The 3 pillars of being a well-fed warrior are, what's going on in the biology of your life, what's going on in the cultures of your life, the ones that you create and the ones that maybe your parents set up for you. And then how are you doing in managing those self-care perspectives and strategies, which we've talked about. So I really like to say, it's busy families a lot of the times, especially in the ladies world. You're leading not only the people at home, but the people in your business or in the workplace, and unless we take the time to say, this is what I need for my health, this is how I choose to show up, this is what I'm working on right now, the world's going to wash over you. And if we're not fueling properly, then you're going to feel depleted on a nutrient level or in a stress level, right? And then the negative thinking patterns, the self-sacrifice kind of double down on that. So I want to make sure that you feel really, really whole. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's microbiomia. And, this is some of the ways I work with clients. So a lot of it is on Zoom. We've talked about this already. I've also shared, right? We're going to get a little vulnerable. I got married almost a year ago in January, and the first year of marriage has been transformative. Eric and I keep making new agreements. We keep asking ourselves, who do we want to be for our future children? And then, with all the science and clinical research, I know, how do I be a cool, calm, and collected new wife and a good partner, a good roommate, and still really, love on the people in our life in a new way, even when, we really wanted this first year of marriage to be focused on how do we create our businesses? How do we set ourselves up for the next 5 to 10 years to feel really abundant? My personal mantra has been easy abundance and efficient action. And so if you're a small business owner, those 2 mantras, you can take them from me because we all need them. But everything from kitchen cleanups, I don't really do a whole lot of virtual yoga online anymore. But those weight loss conversations, and if it's something that you need in your body, we're going to kind of curtail that coaching whenever you need. So let's go right into the content today. So again, I hope you can see this whole slide, and you're welcome to screenshot it. If you kind of take yourself back to the organs in your body that we all are impacting every day with every meal we eat, with every sip of water we drink. And maybe you've forgotten maybe how all these different body processes work. And my goal for you today is when you have this next level of awareness, you're going to make different choices. You're going to regulate your stress differently. And I hope that you become an advocate for your own body, because you can 100%, and I see it happen all the time, mindlessly, see things online and go through a weight loss protocol, or, decide, okay, I'm going to, take sober January or work on some of those things. And without really thinking about all the pieces of your daily actions and how they impact your organs, you might fall on or off that diet. And so my goal with my clients and what I want to do with you very, briefly in this super simplified physiology training is focus on, the 3 big organ functions, how those are impacting your everyday life. And right, every meal that we eat, whether it's one that, we've self-created ourselves and we feel in really great discipline with, or we're out and we're having fun and it's one of the most luxurious meals, on a rooftop somewhere, they both go through these organ systems. So for women's health, we see this a lot, no matter your age, right? Your pancreas is doing a lot of that work to regulate your blood sugar, kick out, beta cells, some immune function as well. But the enzymes that your pancreas creates are really helping that digestive process. So if you're wondering, why is the heartburn happening? So and so is my doctor or someone has told me, I really need to get my blood sugar in check. This can be a byproduct of mood as well. It's your pancreas. And so do we start praying over our pancreas? Maybe do you start thinking about all the different ways your body is working for you over this next 7 days is my biggest goal for you. If you aren't in that healthy range of your BMI, which, yes, as a clinical nutritionist, BMI isn't just a fad that doesn't acknowledge body confidence or makes people feel less than. I want all the confidence in the world. I want all the empowerment in the world. But we do know that your skeletal structure needs a certain amount of adipose tissue on it to help all of your organs, right? Everything you see in this photo work really well. And so when that BMI is high and you have visceral fat, right, all of these organs have a big cushion of fat around them. And so their communication with each other is not as great. Your fascial space might feel uncomfortable. You'll hold a lot of energy, like spiritual energy, and like have this innate sense of clogging, maybe, if you will, or slowing. And I think if you can release the self-judgment, if you can get into a place of, I want to be the person who can help heal my body, and I forgive myself for the person that got me to where I am right now, you're going to start seeing, how can I be healthy with these organs? And how can I have these organs keep helping me throughout the entire time of my life? So your pancreas is having that enzyme, flush down into your small intestine to help you break down food. If you're eating a lot of sugar, it's kicking out insulin. It's doing that for all of us, right? But if you're in a place where you have obesity, right, or maybe just bad habits around sugar, insulin resistance, where there is no different, the glucose is so high all the time that we're having to not, we're having malfunctioning kind of feedback processes, right? So your body tells your brain to do certain things. And we'll talk about hormones in a second. So, let's love on our pancreas, I guess is where I'm trying to take you with this, is let's love on our pancreas, let's love on our liver. So your liver does two different types of detoxification, and it's filtering all of your blood. So what we'll talk about in the 3-day reset is, how do we keep things out of this beautiful machine that's working for us to give it a chance to catch up? Because a lot of times, right, fatty liver, stagnation in the liver, it's its own organ. It's like, if you're exhausted from your day-to-day stress, imagine how much stress we're kind of putting on our organs. And so I want you to begin to think about that. And then, the fueling side of this is, how do we protect and promote things so that this detox can happen and your blood is working for you, right? When we drop lots of processed foods in, right, long weeks of alcohol or busyness, right, that cortisol, stress, all of these things go up, and it's not as kind of wholesome as we could be. And so when you're in this resting space, yes, we're impacting your nervous system, but I truly believe we can have some of that health going on, with the pancreas, with the liver, and then lastly, my favorite body organ, right? Your large intestines, your colon, really responsible for salvaging all the water from your food after that digestive process and the absorption has happened. So if you're dehydrated, it's definitely going to show up in your mood probably last. So that means that it's infecting so many different things. But I think my favorite part about being a nutritionist is the research that's coming out around psychobiotics and how we know you have this gut brain connection, and that there are so many different bacteria and fungi and microscopic organisms impacting the way that we break down food, break down carbs, and also that psychology in the brain. Um, you'll find as well leaky gut. So one of these bacterias, the strain of bacteria Akkermansia, is really responsible for coating the inside of your intestines and lining it, giving it a good goo layer, if you will, to protect from some of those toxins, right? If your body didn't help you reject something from food poisoning, that's an extreme example, but we take little doses of that even in like regular food that you might cook and not wash as well. You're a resilient human being. And so these bacteria can begin to play a role in that. And Akkermansia specifically really helps the organ of your intestine, right? Or you have dead skin that you need to exfoliate. Like that's all happening inside of you as well. But these bacterial strains help break down, the carbohydrates, help kind of have that ecosystem going. A good healthy microbiome is somewhere 250 species. I test myself, I'm at like 130 right now. And to give you context, in these indigenous populations that have, diversity of colors and foods and soils, they have uppers of thousands, and their spiritual confidence is just in a completely different level. I mean, you can think of Machu Picchu and some of those places. So I don't want to get too deep into that, but know that you'll have some of that exposure today, and not every probiotic is created equal. And then lastly, on this slide, I want to talk about hormones, because I think on the surface, hormones are, my hormones are out of, actually these signals coming from the brain, your adrenals, your thyroids, right? And helping them kind of be the police and regulators of your life, and telling, which body processes to turn on and off. So if, let's say, you're in a high cortisol state, high, stress state, and your cortisol stays high for a long time, it's more about thinking like holding the green light, the go, 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 like pressing the gas more and more on this hormones, pulling things forward down your bloodstream, down that cascade pathway. And how can we begin to bring it back to a healthy balance? I really talk about work-life synergy, because I don't know if we're going to get into a place of being somebody at work and being somebody at home, especially if you're at work from home. So maybe it's, right, letting the stress, come to that point where you're acknowledging I'm maybe, ready for a break sooner, and going and taking that walk, right, down regulating your hormones, having the fuel in your body do that as well for you, and really finding that place of healthy regulation. Now, if you're listening to this and you're already in a disease pattern, you're already working with your doctor, this down your organs, which I feel like you deserve to know. And if you have this healthy understanding, the farther we get down the road of, I want to try this, modification of the diet, or I didn't know gluten does this to my body for inflammation and it's not worth it, or right, as you start making those decisions, I want you to feel informed. And so know that your hormones are always happening. You're always in a body process. If you're in menopause, that's a different type of body process, but that's all natural as well. And so it's not about getting back. It's not about, I should be this way. I want you in a curious spot throughout this entire kind of process and reset. So I want to talk to you about my 4 quadrants of change. It's been the way I, kind of consult leaders and people who want to have a sense of, I hesitate on saying sense of control, but it's really what I see begin to happen. Because if you're controlling life in the wrong spots, right, then that might look like, communicating in a not as fruitful or loving way to the people around you, being hard on yourself, being hard on the people around you, And without a kind of a baseline framework to bounce off of, right? You have no sounding board. Um, and so this is my version of it. And we use the first two limbs of yoga to help you really simply catch yourself and catch your thoughts. So these are two of the four quadrants of change I want to teach you today. And again, remember, it's equip your mind and fuel your body. So the equipping your mind piece of this puzzle is there's two ways that I want you to think about who you are and how you're being. The first way is, right, those first couple thoughts of your morning, maybe tomorrow on Monday, or if you're listening to this later, right? When you first wake up and out of bed, how loving can you be to yourself? Is there a place where you can kind of edit and stop some of those negative thinking patterns? And there's layers to this. So it gets deeper and deeper as you go, and you'll begin to find some of those questions as you study yourself about where you could use more discipline, right? Where you need to purify thoughts, or if you're constantly striving for the next, what is that relationship to contentment? So, helping your inner dialogues will create more contentment, right? We talked about staying curious, so being in a place of self-study, devotion. I leave this pretty broad because everybody's got a different spiritual background, and I think that's great. But there's some version of devotion, even if it's to nature or to the agreements in your life, to your pet, that makes you you. And then the last two, which definitely, kind of resonate in the well-fed warrior community is, how is self-discipline? How, if if you're a business owner, you've probably read the book like 10,000 hours and getting good at things. And so, how are you on your 10,000 hours of self-discipline? Do you really have a good grasp on delayed gratification, to manifest what you want, even when it's not on your timing, but it's on God's timing? Can you kind of make some of those choices in the moment? Or maybe it's brand new to you, and that's okay too. And then purification, which I think is really where energetics meet nature. Because if we think about diets are truly, in my opinion, detoxes, because there's certain ways that we're deciding to change the chemistry of your body by changing the things we put inside of it. And ideally, we want that to be a detoxification process, right? There's no diet out there that's like, yeah, come on, let's toxify everything. And so when you begin to think about it that way, then it's not so much I'm on this diet or I'm off this diet, but I'm deciding to do this purification, right? I'm thinking about my liver, my pancreas, my colon, and helping support that. And to be totally honest with you, that's what gets you past the first plateau and deeper into, the layers of weight loss and refinement of your body that you really need. The second one, a little bit more uncomfortable, if I'm being totally honest with you. These are the ones that I have conversations with clients. And when they're in a high stress pattern, it's typically because we haven't practiced some of these things and there's a misalignment in the energy around how they're connecting outward. So if they're in a place and mindset where they're not looking to put kindness into the, conversation, they're kind of skirting around, truthfulness, even if it's hard to say to that person or say to themselves, maybe they're not being as generous as they could be. I think sometimes we, start the pattern of, I need to conserve energy. I need to conserve energy. I have a lot on my plate. I'm busy. And then we forget that some of those moments of being generous with checking in on people or helping a team member or, reaching out to family, that extra mile is never crowded. And you can do this with your energy and then watch energy come back to you and your cup gets filled yet again. In my opinion, in order to be as generous and in alignment, which we could talk about these for hours, so I'm not going to get too deep today, but moderating, if you're in a kind of conscious centered space, right? Or if the world is washing over you, and having that self-regulation support your energy field and then the kind of energy fields you're creating for other people. And this leads into the last one, which you're probably like, why is non-stealing in here? Like, obviously, don't shoplift. But this actually just means the same thing: stealing energy, stealing, right? It's an excess of fire. If we talk about the elements of nature and how energy transforms, so we want to be in a place that feels really receptive. That's what this whole challenge for you guys is about. This 7 days is boosting that receptivity, which is actually a much more quiet version of life. It's a much more watching and observing other people, right? Seeing where that energy state's at, and then either mirroring it, which is one of the superpowers of, business, sales. We can talk about abundance later. And so, moderating your energy, staying aware of it, not staying in a place of judgment for yourself, right? But being in that healthy curiosity, prioritizing kindness, truthfulness, being generous, moderating if you have an internal dialogue going on, and then really being in that place of contentment on the outside too. And so I love this visual to help kind of anchor this in. So go ahead and close your eyes. If you're sitting, you can fan your toes on the ground. If you're kicking back, just kind of notice your breath. Take a deep breath in and open mouth exhale. So one of the ways that we really begin to talk about and get into this is through your five senses, because you're in sensory overload if you've already hit overwhelm or stressed out or need to recharge. And so when you're having that, conversation with yourself around, am I moderating energy okay? Am I in balance? Am I not, hijacking situations, talking over people, self-expressing from a place of authenticity? Then we can begin to step some of that self-forgiveness in the right direction. So throughout this experience, starting tomorrow, we're going to talk about the 7-day reset. We've talked about organs. I've told you, why I think it's powerful to really watch your energy, internal dialogue, as well as when you're in external situations. And that's what exploration sessions are for. So if you're on my website, that is where we have that conversation and sort out those things together. But as a whole, for women's health, and as your nutritionist for this week, I want to talk about endocrine disrupting chemicals, because if you're on a fertility journey or maybe in the early stages of menopause and dealing with some of these bigger symptoms, if we have these things playing a part, right, in that process we talked about from mouth to anus, your body is absorbing these and detoxing these, right? We're giving the body more work to detoxify parabens, artificial colors, dyes, fragrances, certain detergents. And to give you context, as soon as we start seeing like eczema symptoms or actual symptoms, that means that your toxin load is way too high already, right? This natural detoxification should be happening. And as soon as we've kind of maxed out that bucket, that's when you'll start seeing breakouts. You'll see the mood start to change. You'll see your digestive start to change. And so kind of just assessing that toxin load. And, my hope for you all is you practice it this first week. Maybe we work together and you really understand it for yourself, but then you can tell when you need to heal over time or not and stop these things. And just to give you context for me in my life, I haven't owned a microwave in a very long time. Most of the things that we have in our life aren't plastic or BPA anymore. And that's because I was really sensitive in, my mental health. I had bad skin when I was really a lot younger. And so I took out a lot of these things early to solve that. But interestingly enough, and it's almost like a year to date, I had a lot of beautiful products given to me for my bridal shower, right? We're talking women's health. We're talking like, okay, what's next in life? And getting married, I had so many beautiful things given to me where people didn't know, that I don't really, do fragrances this way or, have certain body products, but I love them all and use them this last year. And I've actually been more sick this year than kind of any other year. And I think it's because my body has to work that extra amount, and I think that just shows you I made those decisions, right? I made that decision with my heart that if someone gifted me something and I loved it, that it was worth, having that be a memory for me. And so you're going to make those decisions, right? You're going to be that baseline advocate. I'm never going to tell you do this or don't do that unless it's like to save your life. And I'm more concerned with having you wrap your head around some of these agreements you're going to make with yourself than I am telling you the cookie cutter way to do it or giving you a protocol and say, you're going to be X, Y, and Z after that, because that's not how this works. But know them, top of mind. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the 3-day reset. I want to breeze through this because I know I was, really deep in the science and, what I want out of this whole experience for you all. But the 3-day reset is here to give you an experience in your own body, right? So we're not in the same room. You're not coming to my office every day throughout this 7 days. And so you're going to have a pulse on the things I teach you and then make those agreements with yourself, like we just talked about. The 3-day reset, the why, the behind it, it gives your organs and tissues that break from your normal day-to-day life. You're watching this in your own life, maybe you've taken my 3-day, food journal, maybe you haven't. So I don't actually know what you're eating or the kind of lifestyle you're living, but there's some version of normal. And you're in this because there's some version of better that we're going to go to. And so all this 3-day reset does is give your organs a break, give your tissues a break. I want you to really understand your baseline around self-discipline, around self-talk. As you hear me talk, you maybe haven't considered how you're talking to yourself. And so for 3 days, be super curious. Most importantly, I want 3 days to break up with addictive sugar and habits, right? Giving that pancreas some extra time to kind of hit the reset button, let your digestive hit the reset button too, right? This is, in my opinion, one of the simplest ways to do kind of a modified fast, if you will, right? Juice cleanses are its own thing. To me, that's a step bigger. Water fasting is a step bigger, right? No food, no water is a different step bigger. So remember that all of this is on a spectrum, and this is a beginner's course. It's a free course that I'm offering. And so if we want to take this, deeper, I highly recommend that you do a 3-day food journal with me. Show me all the data. I'll show you all of your macros and micros and the nutrient loads, and then we can begin to kind of critique how you're actually living day to day. So how you're going to do this, your goals are less than 10 grams of sugar throughout the whole day. If I look on the coffee creamer that I have that is, yes, organic and the simplest, it's like got 5 ingredients in it, it still has like 5 or 6 grams of sugar. And so I'm not asking you to completely go absolutely no sugar, but I want you to look at packages. I want you to make that choice of maybe the one thing a day that you get. And to give you context, if it's a donut or a cup of ice cream, that's way more than 10 grams of sugar. So stick with me here, challenge yourself. It's only for 3 days. From there, meats, veggies, and berries. So berries are the lowest form of sugar as well. And so like a banana has too much, it's going to be over the 10 grams. No processed food, no grains, anti-inflammation right now. I want for 3 days your body to be in the least inflammatory state as possible. Are grains innately bad? No. Do they trigger an inflammation process? Yes. If you are in a compromised state, right? If you've had some of this chronic inflammation, not taken a detox, right? Then we're just kind of putting fuel on the fire. And I want to shut the whole system down, keep it really simple, let things heal, right? Like we were talking about with the bacteria, and then, right, see how you're feeling, see how the body can turn over. I'd love for you to consider a 12 to 16 eating hour window. So that can look like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. To me, that's really forgiving. I've been intermittent fasting maybe 5 years now. And I used to be really strict with it in the beginning. Now it's more of just a lifestyle, but thinking about, right, that 16 feet of intestines, it takes time for even your breakfast to get all the way out in a day and a half. So when we can give it a break, your body can catch up to the speed of your life. I love doing this reset. This is actually a perfect time right now because we've been going to concerts and we've been busy ourselves, so really like detoxing from any of the numbers or modifiers in your life. If you're on prescription medications, please keep continuing to take those. I shouldn't have to say that. You guys are smart. Mandatory 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I know that if you're in the later part of your life, sleep itself might not be something that you do a lot of, but I do want you to rest. So that can look like, getting into bed and, reading a book, or if you're waking up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, spending that extra time to really rest. Clean water sources, please, organic coffee or tea, raw veggie juice. Again, watch your sugars. So even, an apple is kind of high. And then this is the most important one in my opinion, because your metabolism and that turnover of your cells really needs you to sweat from 10 to 60 minutes. Your practice, if you're used to sweating every day like me, 60 minutes a day is definitely where you need to be. If you've never considered sweating every day, then it's a 10-minute Epsom salt bath, waist high. Let your body kind of your heart rate, your cardiovascular go up. Be really careful, drink a lot of water, but even if it's that 10-minute walk and that gets you sweating, we need that metabolic process to happen. So those are your, to-dos for the 3-day. And then just really quickly, when you can do this outside of this experience is, any 3 consecutive days that you're at home. If you're like me and we travel and we're busy and we, drop ourselves into busy patterns of work and then or we're not home sometimes, marking in your calendar, there's these 3 days where I'm going to modify my schedule. I'm going to take calls off my schedule and trust that the abundance will still be there, and kind of recharge your energy is so important. It also really serves you if you're in a new season of life or in a transition. And in my opinion, you can do this on a monthly basis, and even align it with your menstrual cycle, depending on how that kind of works for yourself. And we can talk about that one-on-one inside of an exploration session or a 3-day, kind of how to do that consistently. So my favorite part of this whole week, I know that you've been listening in and tuning in to me and my training. I hope you got a lot out of that. Please take notes throughout this whole thing. But our speakers are Holly Lever and Leah D'Amata for really that baseline, any woman, anywhere health. So we're going to talk about something that's gained a lot of popularity online, yoni steaming. She has been doing it for over 5 years, believes it's a piece of her fertility magic, natural fertility magic. With you guys, Leah's great and connects the dots on how you're experiencing, let's say, your bladder release, if you're fully evacuating your stool, and some of those kind of diaphragmatic breath work, pressurized organ cabin conversations. So it's a little sciencey, and I think it's a great way to help you have body awareness in your meditations. One of the amazing things that I really did going from a yoga teacher to a nutritionist was begin to think about the chemistry of my body, my blood vessels, right, as these freeways of energy. And so the more science you can know, the better. And then we're going to talk, specifically fertility or specifically menopause. I put these on the same day so that, wherever you're at in your journey, you can really get the information you're looking for. Dr. Katie and I had a powerful conversation because the fertility side of it's where I'm at personally. And if you're in my community, you know that. And so just kind of asking her some of those questions that I thought I knew the answer to and really needed to hear again was really important. And it's made me just a lot more comfortable and at ease. And then I've actually called in my friend Karen, to talk menopause because I'm not there in my life, but that's a lot of her clientele. And we actually went to the same university. So you're in good hands there. And then lastly, Angela and Danielle are really going to give you more of the high level. What are you doing in your life to regulate stress? Do you have those strategies? Are you curious about strategies? Maybe you go, and get your heart math certification after hearing Angela's talk. And then Danielle is all image and styling. And right, we talked about this at the very beginning of this talk was, what is the inner dialogue we're having? How are we connecting to who we need to be from a visionary standpoint? And then how can we make that into our reality? And I think clothes do that. Your reflection and time with your reflection does that. I mean, there's so many different, even like trendy books out now to like high five yourself in the mirror while you're brushing your teeth or after you brush your teeth to really help that resonance with yourself, because we're spending so much time on devices, maybe in front of other people. I mean, to give you context, like last week, I had almost, 50 yoga students in and out of my energy. And so when we really want to be, in that easy abundance, high performance lifestyle, whatever those goals are for yourself, we have to know that self-management is so important. And so I'm going to leave you with that and know that these 6 speakers are really here to pour into you and let you feel connected. And then, like I mentioned, the 2 meditations I have for you, the liquid sunshine, listen to it daily if you can, kind of transfer my energy into you and help you drop down into that parasympathetic state. And then the other one around mindfulness in your plate will really help you think about how you're eating meals. Because if there's anything I know worldwide in any culture with any, perspective or faith, is that meal time that you have is something you're going to do no matter what. So it saves you time. It's personal. And you're able to really focus on nourishment without meditating for 6 hours or coming to a retreat of mind. So it's just a really great practice to wrap your head around it. I've eaten so much slower, and I definitely believe that it helps heal my digestive system. And I want to give that to you too. So I appreciate you spending the time to listen to this talk. Again, my name's Mia. I know that when we can begin to look at the body from an organ health sense, as well as an energy in, energy out sense, you're going to be that much more comfortable with saying, this is for me, this isn't for me, and begin to manage your energy, have those non-negotiables, and really recharge. And I want to teach you how to recharge yourself, but then specifically walk you through it for this next week. So thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and stay in tune and keep up with the interviews. You can hit reply to any of your emails and chat with me. And I'm so grateful that you're here. Namaste, friends.